In this video, we'll break down how Hitler seduced millions. Not just with fear, but with psychological tactics so powerful, they still shape elections, influencers, and even relationships today. This isn't history, it's a blueprint. And once you understand these tactics, you'll start noticing them everywhere. Now let me ask you something. How do millions of ordinary people, parents, teachers, doctors, end up following a man who would plunge the world into darkness? You tell yourself, I would never fall for that. But are you sure? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. People don't follow tyrants because they're forced. They follow them because it feels good at first. Because power doesn't begin with control. It begins with seduction, with language that flatters, with symbols that comfort, with ideas that whisper, you are not alone, you are chosen. And here's what no one wants to admit. The same tactics Hitler used still live among us, in speeches, in social media, even in your closest relationships. This is not just a history lesson. This is a psychological decoding of mass manipulation. And by the end, you won't just understand how it worked, you'll see how it still works. Most people think Hitler rose to power through fear, but what if I told you? He rose through love. Not the kind of love you want, but the kind of love desperate people cling to when the world makes them feel invisible. Germany after World War I was broken, ashamed, humiliated. People didn't know who to trust or who they were anymore. And then he appeared. A man who didn't say, "You are broken." He said, "You are special, you are pure, you are the ones the world has forgotten. And I'm here to remember you." Sound familiar? You see it today, in politics, in cults, even in Instagram captions. You are not like the rest. That's all it takes. And when someone gives you that identity, you'll protect it, defend it, even if it means closing your eyes to what's right in front of you. Give people a purpose, and they'll forgive you for anything. Make them feel like family, and they'll never see the knife. Let me ask you this. Have you ever ignored a red flag just because it felt so good to be included? Drop a red dot in the comments if you've ever followed someone, online or in real life, who made you feel seen, even when your gut said, wait, something's off. Because manipulation doesn't always shout, sometimes it hugs. But what if that love, that identity, needed someone to blame? That brings us to the next chapter. Every good story needs a villain, and tyrants? They know this better than anyone, because once people feel like they belong, once they believe they are the good ones, they'll do anything to protect that feeling, even if it means finding someone to hate. Hitler didn't just unify Germany, he gave it a threat, a face, a group to fear, and eventually destroy. Jews, communists, intellectuals, outsiders, anyone who challenged the fantasy was branded as the enemy. He didn't create hate from thin air. He redirected fear and gave it a target. And this is where things get terrifying, because when people are afraid of losing their identity, they'll believe anything that lets them keep it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a public figure or influencer stir up outrage, blame a group, paint themselves as the only answer to a made-up crisis? Think hard. It's not ancient history. It's this week's trending news. Unite the people under fear, and they'll thank you while they burn the truth. That's not politics, that's mass psychology. It's like saying, I'm the only one who can save you from the danger I just invented. Be honest, what's the last time you saw a hero who needed a villain just to stay relevant? Drop it in the comments, no names needed. But here's the next trick. What happens when people start asking questions? when doubt creeps in, that's when the real manipulation begins. Let's go to Here's a question most people never ask. What is truth? Is it what happened, or what people believe happened? Because to Hitler, truth was never objective. It was strategic. He didn't just lie, he made lies feel real, until reality itself bent to his will. And how did he do it? He repeated, over and over, a half-truth, a loaded phrase, a single sentence with just enough fear in it to make people wonder. Then came the newspapers, the speeches, the posters, the education system. Soon the people weren't just believing his words, they were thinking in his language. The goal wasn't just to control what people believed, it was to control what they were even allowed to question. Let this sink in. If you say something loud enough and often enough, people will start repeating it without realizing they've stopped thinking. Sound familiar? It's the influencer who educates you in 7-second reels. It's the politician who says the same phrase in every debate. It's the algorithm that keeps feeding you one side until you forget there was ever another. When people stop questioning, truth dies silently. Ever watch someone argue with total confidence, then realize everything they just said was copied from a comment section? That's not thought, that's programming. What's one belief you held strongly, until you realized it wasn't even yours? Drop it below. Let's get real. But now comes the scariest part, because it's not just about what they were taught. It's about what they were willing to do. What would it take for good, decent people to become obedient soldiers of cruelty? Let's go to Here's a chilling truth. Most atrocities in history weren't committed by sadists. They were committed by people who thought they were doing their job. Teachers, secretaries, officers, clerks, people who tucked their kids in at night and processed deportation lists by day. How? Because obedience is easier than guilt. And rules, no matter how dark, feel safer than chaos. The truly terrifying part wasn't Hitler's power. It was how easily people gave up their own. When you're told that this is normal, when your friends are doing it, when the punishment for disobedience is exile, or worse, you stop questioning. You start complying. And eventually, you stop noticing what you become. Have you ever gone along with something, not because you agreed, but because it was easier than speaking up? Now imagine that, multiplied by millions. This is why evil thrives in systems, because systems remove responsibility. You're just doing what you're told, and if you don't, you're the threat. The greatest crimes are rarely committed by villains, they're committed by cowards dressed in uniforms. Think of that workplace where everyone knows something's wrong, but nobody says a word. Not because they're bad, because they're scared. Now imagine that on a national scale. What's something you regret going along with, because you didn't want to be the odd one out? Tell us. No judgment. We've all been there, but even obedience has its limits. Eventually reality knocks. So why didn't they wake up sooner? Because Hitler had one final weapon, and it wasn't fear, it was hope. Let's go to the final chapter. Here's the most tragic part of all. People didn't resist because they believed it would get better. Because Hitler didn't rule with constant fear. He ruled with hope. This is just temporary. Things will calm down. He's only doing what's necessary. Even as freedoms vanished. Even as neighbors disappeared. Even as the truth twisted beyond recognition. They waited for normal to return. But normal never came. Because that's the final seduction of power. Hope. Fear makes you run, but hope makes you stay. They stayed silent. They looked away. They waited for someone else to do something. And by the time they realized the truth, it was too late. Have you ever told yourself, it's probably fine, I'm overthinking, someone else will speak up, and then regretted it? That's how power thrives. Not through terror, through hesitation. What's one moment where you wished you had spoken up, but didn't? Leave it below. Your story might wake someone else up. Millions didn't fall for Hitler because they were evil. They fell for him because he made them feel seen, then gave them someone to blame, then fed them lies, then made them obey, then gave them hope. Sound familiar? Because the tools haven't changed, only the faces have. So if you think this is just a story from the past, think again. Every one of those tactics, belonging, enemies, propaganda, obedience, hope, are being used right now in politics, in media, in relationships, maybe even on you. The question isn't, would you fall for it? It's, are you already falling and don't know it yet? If you felt something shift in your mind during this video, then maybe you belong with us. This isn't just a channel. It's a tribe of minds who question everything. Welcome to Psyche Alchemy, where you don't just learn history. You learn how not to repeat it. Drop your thoughts, share your stories, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Not because we want your click, but because next time, we'll go even deeper.